don't click past this video, because if you are trying to conceive and you want to know if you are pregnant before your period is due, that 2-week wait can be so annoying. Then continue to watch, because I'm going to be talking to you all about what the implantation signs and symptoms are. My name is Sacha Welsh, and I'm a certified health coach specializing in preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum health. Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sacha Welsh. If you're new here, I am a certified health coach specializing in preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum, and I'm also the founder of Welsh Wellness. And today we're going to be going over all the cool things of implantation. So if you are trying to conceive and you're just itching to wait those 2 weeks before your period is due to see if you really are pregnant, this may be the video for you, because you very well could be experiencing some of these implantation signs and symptoms, and then, girl, you pregnant. So quickly before I get into the video, I just want to say, if you are interested in any sort of preconception health, pregnancy health, or postpartum health, being you want to conceive naturally, you want to lower your risk of having a high risk pregnancy, or just have a smooth delivery and recovery, or you're struggling through postpartum and you want to have a smooth breastfeeding experience or a smooth sleep experience, or anything you're struggling with, then subscribe to my channel, because I go over all the things in all 3 of those phases, and it just takes one quick button to just click and subscribe. Okay, so let's get started, but I just want to quickly go over what the implantation process is. So, okay, you've ovulated, the sperm has met the egg, they fertilized, and then it travels down the fallopian tube. Maybe not quite so much like that, but it travels down the fallopian tube and it implants in the uterus. That's the implantation process. However, this can take between 6 to 10 days typically, sometimes up to 11 and sometimes up to 12 post-ovulation. So you've ovulated, 6 to 12 days after ovulation is when you're going to experience implantation, and you may experience some of these signs and symptoms. Typically, they're experienced around day 8 and day 9. That's the textbook experience, but you can experience it as early as 6 days post-ovulation and as late as 12 days. Okie dokie smoky, let's get into sign and symptom number 1, and that's implantation bleeding. So the difference between implantation bleeding and a period is that implantation bleeding is just spotting. You're only going to spot. It's going to be very mild. You shouldn't really feel more than a panty liner. A period obviously increases and intensifies, and there's an actual flow. You will not receive a flow with implantation bleeding. And typically it occurs between day 6 and day 12 post-ovulation. So if you're experiencing some bleeding symptoms and some spotting symptoms, it can be pink, it can be brown. As long as it's no more than spotting and not an actual flow, it could be a sign of pregnancy. It just has to occur within that 6 to 12 day period, and it doesn't last very long either. Typically, implantation bleeding can last up to 2 days, and it can last as little as 1 hour. So it can be any time between an hour to 2 days, and it will be just mild spotting, brown or pink, but no more than a panty liner each time you wipe. That's all it takes. Also, implantation bleeding actually happens to only 1 in 3 women. So if you don't experience implantation bleeding, it doesn't mean that you're not pregnant. I'll be honest, for all of my pregnancies, I did not have implantation bleeding, but I had perfectly healthy pregnancies and wound up with big fat positive tests and was able to carry my babies full term. So it does not mean you're not pregnant if you don't experience this symptom. It happens to 1 in 3, so approximately 33% of women. But if you are one of those 1 in 3 women that experiences it, it would be mild, and it would be between day 6 and day 12 post-ovulation day. Okay, moving on to symptom number 2. This can be a temperature dip and then a rise again. So, okay, during the implantation process, this happens to approximately 1 in 4 women, so 25%, you may experience a plummet in your temperature. This is during implantation. So textbook days, maybe it's day 8, day 9. Day 9 is a great day for that to happen, but could be later depending on when the implantation happens. But implantation day, you experience a dip in your temperature, and then right after that dip is a big rise. So a fertility specialist or someone that's encouraging charting, or you're doing some charting of your own, some temping, if you see a dip in your temperature and then a rise again, girl, that is a really good pregnancy sign. But again, this only happens to 1 in 4 women, 25%. So if you don't experience this, that also doesn't mean that you're not pregnant. So there's still hope, but this is one of the symptoms that is pretty interesting. Again, for all of my pregnancies, I did not experience this. Well, you know what? I should be completely honest. Maybe I did experience it, but I did not do any temping. So I don't know if there was a plummet and then a rise again. But the key thing is that there has to be a plummet and then a rise again. So you would have to be temping daily because you don't know which day you're gonna implant. Is anywhere between day 6 and day 12 post ovulation. So it would have to be very consistent, and it has to be first thing in the morning. So that's the most accurate time of your temperature. It's kind of like the same thing that you've been doing if you're temping to find out when you do ovulate, but some women like to do this to see if there's been an implantation occurrence as well. So keep that in mind, that it will plummet and then rise again. I never experienced this because I never did temping for my pregnancies, but it's a 25% chance that it could happen to you. All right, implantation symptom number 3 is cramping. So this happens to approximately 30% of women, so just under the 1 in 3 statistic there, 30%, you experience some cramping during your implantation. So basically how it works is the fertilized egg implants into the uterus, and the uterus gets a little irritated when that happens, and so it will shed some blood and therefore cause a little cramping. So the blood can cause implantation bleeding, and it can cause cramping. So you may experience both, you may experience neither. It's about 30% of women that can experience cramping. One thing I really want to say about the cramping though, is that it is not the same as period cramping. It can be, but it's textbook supposed to be a lot more mild. So with period cramping, our cramping can intensify and it can feel different in terms of pulling or just a plain old cramp. Like there's different feelings. Every woman is different. This is all relative to each woman. But with implantation cramping, it's very mild, light cramping, like to the point you may not even notice it happening. But there are some women that experience pretty intense implantation cramping. So it's all relative to the woman, but for the most part, it's very light. But one thing to keep in mind is that the cramping should not intensify. If it starts light and then it intensifies, it may not be due to implantation. It could be just something else going on with your body during that month. But again, the implantation will occur between day 6 and day 12 post ovulation, and it should be very light and it should not intensify at all. So if I put my experience into this, I did not have any implantation cramping during any of my pregnancies. I did feel a little cramping, I'll be honest, during ovulation. So I kind of always knew when I ovulated, but I never felt it during the implantation. So this happens to about 30% of women. I was not one of those 30%, but I still went on to have healthy pregnancies. So if it doesn't happen to you, that doesn't mean anything. If you have intense cramping pains during the day 6 and day 12 post ovulation, don't be alarmed and say, oh man, it's too intense, I'm not pregnant. It's relative to every woman. You could be just one of the rare ones that experiences a more intense implantation cramping. But for the most part, it will be pretty light and it will only occur for a few days. Okay, so let's keep going to implantation symptom number 4. So I'm gonna group a few things together here because they're all due to the same thing. So this implantation symptom could include nausea, it could include food aversions, it could include fatigue, and these are all due to the lift in progesterone during the implantation phase. So the way the menstrual cycle works is the first half of your period, so the first day of your period to the day you ovulate is when your estrogen is more dominant, and then you ovulate, and then to day 28 or to when you're day 15 to day 28, which is the second half of your period cycle, is when you experience a lift in progesterone. So when you become pregnant, and when you are pregnant, the progesterone is greatly lifted because that's what sustains a pregnancy. So you may experience some nausea, some food aversions, or some fatigue during the implantation when the progesterone is lifting during that phase. And this is also why you experience it during pregnancy, especially in the first trimester when the baby is going from an embryo to a baby. But particularly some women do experience this during the implantation phase. Again, from my experience, I never experienced that. I did not have any nausea or food aversions or fatigue during implantation. However, I definitely had fatigue and food aversions during pregnancy. Okay, implantation symptom number 5, experiencing vivid dreams. So this is typically a sign of pregnancy. So this is just due to hormone fluctuation. Honestly, when you're pregnant, it's just like crazy. This is why we're like crazy pregnant ladies. You're just crazy with all the hormones going up and down all the time. So during the implantation, you can experience a ton of hormone fluctuation, and therefore you may experience some vivid dreams. And when I say vivid dreams, I mean you remember these dreams like it was real life. And sometimes these dreams can be really intense and really scary. There's a lot of women that actually don't realize they're pregnant until they start having vivid dreams. They're like, oh my gosh, these dreams started getting really vivid again. I think I'm pregnant. And then they take a test and boom, positive pregnancy test. So sometimes these women experience this right before their period is due, and they're right. They're just one of those lucky percentages that experience vivid dreams before their period is due. But for me, I had vivid dreams definitely during my pregnancy, but not during implantation. So if you're one of those lucky women that experiences it during implantation, then that could be a good telltale sign that you're pregnant. Last but not least, implantation symptom number 6 is change in breasts. So this can be anywhere from change in your breast size, your tenderness, soreness, your areola gets a little darker and bigger, or your nipples change. It's any changes that you see in your breast, see or feel, can definitely be a telltale sign of implantation. A lot of women experience it roughly a week before their periods due, which is right in that 6 to 12 day post-ovulation time. So that's a pretty good sign. But make sure you know your body. So if you don't usually experience sore breasts before your period comes on, or tenderness, or changes in size, or whatever it may be, then it could be because of pregnancy. But if this is something you experience all the time, then it may not be to pregnancy. It could be, but it may just be your period coming on. So make sure you also know your body so that you know when something feels different. So if it's more intense or more sore, and it can be different feelings, like it can be sore to the touch, it can be tingling. For me, I felt more of a tingling sensation. Like when I knew I was pregnant, because about a week before my period was due, I felt the same sensations that I feel when I'm breastfeeding. And I was like, I know that feeling. I only feel that when I am breastfeeding. So I think I'm pregnant. And sure enough, I was. So know your body and know what you usually feel when your period's coming on versus what may be a telltale sign of pregnancy. The changes in breasts and the soreness and the tenderness and the tingling, or whatever it is you may feel, is really your body getting ready for breastfeeding. It's our women's bodies are so amazing that we start preparing as soon as the implantation happens. Like some women feel this and some women don't. So if you don't feel this, again, don't say, oh, I guess I'm not pregnant, I don't feel a difference in my breast. Then don't get all upset, because you may just feel it later on in your pregnancy, maybe the 3rd trimester, maybe the 1st trimester, maybe in postpartum is when you start noticing your breast changes. It's different for every woman, but some women experience the changes as soon as implantation occurs, and that's just your body getting ready for the breastfeeding stages. It's pretty awesome. Okay guys, that's it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found this video helpful. Please comment below if you have experienced any of these implantation symptoms that I talked about, or if you've experienced more than what I talked about. I would love to hear from you. I already gave you guys what I felt and experienced, which was honestly really none of those. I was not part of any of those percentages, but I went on to have some pretty good pregnancies. So don't be alarmed if you have not experienced any of these, because you still very well could be pregnant. But if you're one of those lucky women that does have implantation signs and symptoms, then I hope you found this video helpful, and I really hope that you get that big fat positive that you've been longing for. So if you're still interested in preconception health in any way, pregnancy health in any way, postpartum health in any way, then please subscribe to my channel below. I'm making this the #1 spot for preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum health tips. Again, I'm Sacha Welsh, certified health coach of preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum, and I will see you next time. Have a great week, guys. Bye!